And then another thing I was wondering is if there was a relationship between ACT UP and the People of Color Against AIDS Network.
Yeah, well, POCAAN was a spin-off from the foundation originally because, you know, Seattle's a fairly white city. There just was statistics released a week or two ago that it's one of the, I think it's the fifth whitest city in the country. And the disease hadn't been as prominent in communities of color in Seattle at that time as it became in communities with larger, cities with larger communities of color and subsequently. But people in communities of color were, here in Seattle, were having difficulty dealing with the disease. Now, some of the folks who were very active in ACT UP were people of color. I'm thinking of Brian White, who was a black man, an African-American man in particular, who was a major activist and at the time. But insofar as education and other kinds of things related to being white, and if you want to call it white privilege, exist, it might have been easier for white LBGT people or HIV people to be publicly known, to come out, to deal with it, than it would have been in some communities of color. My lover Michael gave the first talk to an Asian American group here in Seattle on AIDS. He spoke at the Desai Veterans Hall down on, I think, Weller Street in the International District. And as a person with AIDS and an Asian American, because he was a mixed Korean American, people needed to bring those communities. The disease was coming to those communities, was in those communities. An organization like POCAAN eventually, I was very supportive of it in a number of ways subsequently, because it had difficulties getting assured funding through the state program and everything. A number of us were, who were not people of color, got involved in that. Those kind of specialized organizations, and then it in turn spun off Entre Hermanos, the Latino group, that has to do with dynamics within those communities that I'm not really privy to, but yeah. So ACT UP was supportive of those things, yeah.